Let's jump right in. Welcome to this explainer. Today, we are exploring the absolutely fascinating architecture of the human mind. We're going to look at exactly how we're wired, what makes us tick, and, importantly, what happens when that wiring gets a little too rigid. So, what makes you, well, exactly you? It's kind of a wild thing to ponder, right? You can really think of human personality as the fingerprint of the mind. It's a completely unique, one-of-a-kind blend of your genetics, your environment, and your individual life experiences. And just like your physical fingerprints, literally no two minds are exactly alike. But how do we actually define something that's so incredibly complex? Okay, let's dive into this. According to the American Psychological Association, personality refers to individual differences in characteristic patterns of thinking, feeling, and behaving. When we unpack that a bit, it essentially means your personality isn't just a fleeting mood or a one-off action. No, it's the repeated, consistent way you process information, experience your emotions, and react to the whole world around you. Now, a healthy developing personality rests on 5 foundational pillars. First up is consistency. A kind person is usually kind at home and at work. Second is stability. It develops slowly over time and doesn't just change overnight. Third is uniqueness. Like we said, no two are the same. Fourth, it has biological and psychological roots, meaning it's shaped by both your brain chemistry and your upbringing. And fifth, it heavily influences your behavior, pretty much dictating how you make decisions and handle stress on a daily basis. But what happens when that natural flexibility completely disappears? See, a normal personality adapts to situations. Sure, it might cause some minor hiccups here and there, but generally, it's flexible. On the flip side, a personality disorder, as defined by the DSM-5, is an enduring pattern that is highly rigid, deeply inflexible, and deviates markedly from cultural expectations. It's absolutely crucial to understand here that a disorder isn't just a quirky personality trait. It is an extreme, rigid trait that causes real distress, severe impairment in daily life, and definitely requires professional help. So here is our roadmap for today's explainer. We've got what is personality, the clinical shift, and then we're going to break down the DSM-5's 3 distinct groupings: Cluster A, Cluster B, and Cluster C. All right, moving right along to Section 1, Cluster A, odd and eccentric. The APA defines Cluster A as being characterized by odd, eccentric thinking or behavior. Now, it's super important to approach this specific group with a lot of empathy, because individuals falling into this diagnostic cluster often struggle profoundly with their social relationships. They might appear highly unusual to the people around them, and they often come across as emotionally cold or distant, usually preferring to just avoid close relationships altogether. Let's put this into perspective. Picture this. A coworker gives you a friendly smile in the hallway. Now, to someone with paranoid personality disorder, that normal smile might be interpreted as a direct threat. They suspect hidden, malevolent motives and think, hey, this is a trick. Conversely, someone with schizoid personality disorder sees that exact same smile and simply feels profound indifference. They have absolutely no desire for social engagement, preferring complete isolation and showing little to no emotion. It's totally different wiring. Then we have the third disorder in this cluster, which is schizotypal personality disorder. This one is characterized by extreme discomfort with relationships, but it's coupled with very bizarre, magical beliefs. A real-life example of this is someone genuinely believing they have special powers to predict the future, or that they can literally read minds. They might also experience strange bodily sensations and speak in a very vague, unusual sort of way. So the crucial point is, if you want to remember the core features of these 3 Cluster A conditions, just think of the 3 S's. Paranoid is suspicious, schizoid is solitary, and schizotypal is strange. Suspicious, solitary, strange. If you can lock those in, you've pretty much got Cluster A mastered. Okay, let's shift gears to Section 2, Cluster B, dramatic, emotional, and erratic. A fair warning, this entire grouping is defined by intense, unpredictable emotions and highly troubled relationships. For instance, it's actually pretty surprising, but roughly 3.3% of the general population is affected by antisocial personality disorder. And this is primarily diagnosed in males, by the way. This disorder is marked by a pervasive pattern of deceit, constant rule-breaking, aggression, and a chilling, almost complete lack of remorse. Someone with this profile might steal from a close friend and when caught feel absolutely zero guilt, often just blaming the victim instead. And this brilliantly illustrates our next condition in the cluster: borderline personality disorder. This involves an intense defense mechanism clinically known as splitting.
A person with borderline PD has this desperate, agonizing fear of abandonment and an incredibly unstable self-image. For example, on Monday, they might look at you and say, "I love you, you're literally the best person in my life." But by Tuesday, due to even a tiny perceived slight, that flips instantly to, "I hate you, you are the absolute worst." It is a massive emotional whiplash.
The final two disorders in Cluster B actually get confused quite a lot. Histrionic personality disorder is completely centered around shallow, theatrical attention-seeking. Someone with HPD absolutely needs to be the center of attention. They might exaggerate stories or start crying suddenly at a party just to bring all the spotlight right back to them. Contrast that with narcissistic personality disorder, which is all about grandiose entitlement. Someone with NPD genuinely believes they are superior to everyone else, they demand constant praise, and they display a devastating lack of empathy for how others feel. To firmly lock these 4 volatile profiles into your memory, you can use a fun little mnemonic device, ABHN, which stands for Always Be Having Drama. A for Antisocial, B for Borderline, H for Histrionic, N for Narcissistic. Just remember, always be having drama. All right, moving into our final landscape, Section 3, Cluster C, Anxious and Fearful. According to the APA, individuals in this cluster are characterized by anxious, fearful thinking or behavior. People grouped into Cluster C are heavily driven by deep-seated insecurities. They are often completely crippled by the fear of rejection, profound everyday worry, or the sheer terror of making a wrong decision or losing control of their environment. You might actually recognize some of these traits in people around you. Avoidant personality disorder represents a really painful type of loneliness. This person desperately wants friends and relationships. They really do, but they fear embarrassment and negative feedback so intensely that they just stay home to avoid the risk. On the other hand, dependent personality disorder is defined by absolute helplessness and clinging behavior. A person with DPD might be completely unable to do something as simple as deciding what to wear or what job to take without excessive, constant advice and reassurance from others. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is a vital clinical distinction regarding the third disorder in this cluster, Obsessive-Compulsive Personality Disorder, or OCPD. Please note, OCPD is completely different from OCD. OCPD is a personality pattern defined by rigid perfectionism, a workaholic nature, and a massive need for interpersonal control. Crucially, it feels totally normal and comfortable to the person experiencing it. They think their way is the right way. OCD, conversely, is an anxiety disorder driven by distressing obsessions and compulsions that the person knows feel wrong, but they just can't stop. It's a huge difference. Which brings us to a really powerful final thought for this explainer. We've spent time exploring the strict definitions and the clinical categorizations of clusters A, B, and C, but if our personalities truly dictate how we see the world, how does understanding these rigid differences change the way we see each other? My hope is that the next time you encounter challenging or confusing behavior, this knowledge empowers you to replace your immediate judgment with a bit of genuine clinical empathy. Thank you so much for diving into the architecture of the mind with me today. Stay curious and keep learning.